I never thought I'd smile while watching my own arrest footage loop on the evening news. But there I was, 28 years old, handcuffs glinting under the fluorescent lights of that godforsaken Chicago PD station. My face twisted in a mix of shock and betrayal that even I didn't recognize anymore. The anchor's voice droned on about corporate embezzlement and a family torn apart, but they had it all wrong, because the real thief wasn't the one in the orange jumpsuit. It was her, my big sister Elena, who'd planted the seeds of that fraud in my lap like a venomous gift, and I'd carried the poison for her without a whisper of complaint. Until now. That reel played in my mind like a bad habit as I sipped black coffee in my cramped Brooklyn walk-up, the kind of place where the walls sweat in summer and the neighbors argue through paper-thin plaster. It was a far cry from the Gold Coast high-rises we'd grown up idolizing, back when Dad was still grinding 80-hour weeks at the commodities firm and Mom baked apple pies that tasted like regret. Elena and I, we were the Golden Girls, or so everyone thought. She was the sharp one, the Wharton grad with a killer smile and the Rolodex full of Ivy League connections. I was the steady one, the accounting whiz who'd majored in finance at some state school because, hell, someone had to keep the books straight while she chased the corner office. But family, right? That's what they say in those Hallmark cards you toss in the trash. Family sticks. Except when it stabs you in the back to climb one rung higher on the ladder. It started unraveling 6 months ago, on a muggy July afternoon when my phone buzzed with a blocked number. I just wrapped a shift at the nonprofit where I crunch numbers for underfunded schools, ironic, given my resume, and was nursing a bruised ego from a blind date who'd ghosted me mid-appetizer. The voice on the other end was gravelly, professional, like he'd gargled with bourbon and bad news. MS. Leah Harlan? This is Detective Ruiz with the NYPD Economic Crimes Unit. We're looking into some discrepancies in your financial history. Mind if we chat? My stomach dropped like I'd missed a step on the subway stairs. Discrepancies? I'd been clean as a whistle since my release 3 years back. Parole had been a bitch, random drug tests, job hunts that ended before they started, the constant itch of eyes on your back, but I'd clawed my way to stability. A tiny apartment in Bed-Stuy, a cat named Schrodinger who only showed up for food, and a therapist who charged on a sliding scale and pretended not to judge the prison tats I'd covered with thrift store sleeves. What kind of discrepancies? I asked, my voice steady as I gripped the counter, knuckles whitening. He paused, the kind of pause that screams gotcha. Embezzlement traces from your time at Harlan and Associates. Old stuff. But someone's been poking around. Your sister's name came up, Elena.
Of course it did.
My big sister, now Elena Voss, VP of Operations at Voss Capital Partners in Midtown, the queen bee of hedge fund darlings who'd reinvented herself after our family firm tanked. She'd cut ties with me post-trial, sent a single care package to juvie, lip gloss, and a note that read, "Chin up,
Kiddo.
This too shall pass." As if I'd stolen those $2.3 million to fund a shoe addiction, not because she'd begged me to cook the books just this once to cover her gambling debts from those high-stakes poker nights in Atlantic City. I told Ruiz I'd come involuntarily, but my mind was already racing. Why now? Elena had been dodging my calls for months, ever since I'd hinted at writing a tell-all blog post, not for revenge, just catharsis. Maybe she smelled blood. Or maybe she was tying up loose ends before her big IPO push. Voss Capital was the talk of Wall Street, a fintech unicorn valued at $1.2 billion. All riding on Elena's visionary algorithms that promised to democratize investing for the little guy. Bullshit. It was the same shell game she'd run on Dad's clients a decade ago. just with better branding and a TED Talk. By the time I hung up, I was sweating through my blouse. I needed answers. Not from cops who saw me as Exhibit A in the recidivism stats. I needed dirt. Real dirt. The kind that buries you alive. That's when I hired Mick. Not some gumshoe from a noir flick, but Michael Mick Riley, ex-FBI forensic accountant turned private eye. The guy who blogs about white-collar wolves on Substack and takes cases pro bono if the story's juicy enough. We met in a dive bar off Flatbush. The kind where the jukebox still spins Springsteen and the bartenders pour heavy. "You're Leah Harlan," he said, sliding into the booth without a handshake. His Irish lilt cut through the din like a shiv. "The fall girl of finance. Saw your TEDx on prison reform last year." "Ballsy." I shrugged, nursing a club soda. Ballsy gets you a podcast invite, not a clean slate. "Look, Mick, I need you to tail my sister, Elena Voss. She's gunning for me, and I want to know why." He eyed me over his pint, that cop stare that peels layers. "Voss? The Voss? Girl's untouchable." "What's the angle?" "Family reunion gone wrong." I leaned in, voice low. 10 years ago, she framed me for her fraud. I did 18 months in Logan. Now she's got investigators sniffing my trail. Find out what she's hiding this time. Mick whistled low. "That's a deep dive."
Lass.
"Her security's tighter than Fort Knox. NDAs. Encrypted servers. The works. But for you, half rate. Let's see if the Queen's got feet of clay." We shook on it. And just like that, the trap was sprung. Or so I thought. Mick's first report landed in my inbox 2 weeks later. Surveillance logs. Burner phone pings. A grainy photo of Elena slipping an envelope to a sketchy suit outside a Soho gallery. "Your sis is meeting with PIs from Kroll Associates," he wrote. "High-end firm. They're digging into you, old associates. Parole records. Even your nonprofit donors. But get this, she's paying premium for total exposure." Sounds personal. Personal. Yeah, that tracked. Elena had always been the performer, the one who'd cry crocodile tears at Dad's funeral while plotting her escape to the Hamptons. Mom had doted on her, called her the star, while I was the helper. Even now, her Instagram was a shrine to power lunches and private jets. Captions like "building empires," "one bold move at a time, girl boss." Mine? A feed of library books and cat memes. Because who needs filters when life's already blurred? I fired back to Mick. Double down. "Hack her emails if you have to." "I want everything." "Careful what you wish for," he replied. But he dove in anyway, pulling strings with a hacker buddy from his bureau days. What he uncovered next, it was the first crack in her porcelain facade, a trail of offshore wires to a Cayman account, funneled through Voss's charity arm. Not millions, but enough to raise eyebrows, $750K over 2 years. Disguised as microloans to empowered women entrepreneurs. Except the recipients were ghosts. And the money looped back to Elena's personal slush fund. My hands shook as I scrolled the docs on my laptop, Schrödinger batting at the cord like it was prey. This wasn't the old fraud. This was fresh. A cancer metastasizing. She'd learned from the last one, smarter shells, laundered through do-gooder optics. But why expose me now? To silence the squeaky wheel before her bell rang? The answer came in a late-night voicemail from an unknown number. Elena's voice silk over steel. "Leah. Honey. We need to talk. I've got something on you that could send you back inside. Meet me at the old spot. Noon tomorrow. Don't make me come find you. The old spot. Our childhood diner in Wicker Park. Now a hipster haunt with avocado toast and $8 lattes. Nostalgia weaponized. I deleted the message. Heart pounding like a bass drop at a trap show. She thought she had leverage?
Fine.
Let her play queen. I'd be the pawn that checkmates. But as I lay awake that night, staring at the water-stained ceiling, doubt crept in like fog off the East River. What if Mick was wrong? What if this was just sibling paranoia? The kind that festers in estranged blood?
Nah.
Elena didn't do loose ends. She tied them into nooses. Noon hit like a gavel. The diner smelled of burnt coffee and fryer grease. A ghost of Mom's meatloaf Tuesdays. Elena slid into the booth across from me, all Lululemon chic and subtle Botox glow. Her blonde bob swinging like a pendulum. Up close, she looked tired, crow's feet she couldn't contour away. The faint purple under her eyes from too many red ice to DC lobbyists. Leah, she said, air-kissing my cheek like we were sorority sisters. You look good. Grounded. Prison'll do that, I replied, sliding a menu her way. What'll it be?
Sis?
Blackmail a la mode. She laughed. That tinkling bell sound that used to charm teachers and now sealed deals. Always so dramatic. Look, I'm not here to fight. Voss is going public next quarter. Big stakes. And words out you're shopping a story. Blogs. Podcasts, it's noise. But in this climate, with the Me Too of finance blowing up, it could tank me. So hire better PR.
Or,
don't frame your sister next time. Her smile faltered. Just a flicker. That was a mistake. Youthful indiscretion. I was in over my head with those debts, Dad's loans. The firm collapsing. You were always the strong one. I thought you'd bounce back. Bounce back. From a felony record that killed job offers. From the whispers at family Thanksgivings, past the yams. And don't mention Leah. From the mirror, where I sometimes didn't recognize the woman staring back. Harder around the edges. Quieter in the soul. I'd borne her sin like a scarlet letter. Confessed to the judge with tears because family first, watched her testify against me with that same apologetic tilt of the head. I did bounce, I said, voice flat as the Formica table. Now leave me alone. She leaned in, dropping the act.
Can't.
Those investigators? They're mine. Digging for dirt on your reform gig, donorless. Maybe a little creative accounting there to keep the lights on.
Tit for tat. Leah.
Walk away from the story. Or we both bleed. Threats wrapped in velvet. Classic Elena. I nodded. Played the part. Ordered eggs Benedict the first couldn't afford just to watch her pay the bill with a flourish. But as she hugged me goodbye, perfume like expensive regret, I slipped a tracker into her tote. Mick's handiwork. Tiny as a tic-tac.
Game on.
The weeks blurred into a fevered dream of stakeouts and spreadsheets. Mick's updates pinged like heroin hits, Elena's calendar jammed with consults at Kroll's offices. Lunches with SEC whispers. A burner phone that lit up nightly with calls to a number traced to a Delaware ghost corp. She spooked, Mick texted one midnight. Burned her assistant last week, fired her on the spot for incompetence. Girls unraveling.
Good.
Let her. I'd spent nights in a 6x8 wondering if she'd ever crack. If the guilt would gnaw through that Teflon exterior. Turns out, it took a mirror. Then came the bombshell. Mick called at dawn. Voice hushed like he was in a confessional. Leah, you sitting? That Cayman Trail? It's not just slush. It's tied to the original fraud. Voss Capital's algorithms? They're built on the same rigged code you took the fall for. She didn't just hide it, she scaled it. Billions in play. And if it blows, it's Enron 2.0. My world tilted. All those bold moves, stolen from Dad's dying playbook, the one she'd erased from the servers before pinning it on me. She'd turned our family's ruin into her rocket fuel. Proof, I whispered, already knowing. Bank recs, server logs, emails from 2013 where she begs you to fix it. Ironclad. But here's the rub, exposing her tanks the firm. Thousands of jobs. Pensions, real people. Not just suits. Collateral. The words stuck like gum on my shoe. I'd always been the good one. The one who weighed scales. But revenge? It didn't ask for permission. That night, I drafted the anon tip to the journal, Voss Capital, Fraudulent Foundations. Attached the files. Hit send from a VPN in Toronto. Then I waited. Schrödinger purring on my lap like a co-conspirator. The story broke on a Tuesday. Front page above the fold. Fintech darlings' dark roots. Embezzlement echoes haunt Voss IPO. Elena's face. Pixelated shock. Beamed from my screen. Twitter, X. Whatever, exploded. Voss fraud trending. Talking heads on CNBC debating if she was villain or victim of a cutthroat industry. She called at 6 a.m.
Sobbing.
Leah? What did you do?
Nothing, I lied.
Voice honey. Karma's a bitch.
Huh.
The fallout hit like a nor'easter, whipping Wall Street into a frenzy that made the GameStop saga look like a playground scuffle. Voss Capital stock, pre-IPO, but traded on secondary markets, plummeted 40% overnight, wiping out $400 million in paper wealth and sending retail investors into Reddit-fueled rants about sisterly sabotage. Elena's TED Talk got yanked. Her Insta went dark. And by Friday, the SEC had slapped a hold on the offering, citing material misrepresentations. Pundits on Fox called it the revenge of the wronged, while MSNBC spun it as systemic misogyny targeting ambitious women.
Me?
I was just trying not to puke from the adrenaline crash. Mick met me at a park bench in Prospect, away from prying eyes, his trench coat flapping like a bad omen. You're viral.
Kid.
Announce a hero in some corners, devil in others. Elena's lawyered up, top firm, the kind that eats whistleblowers for breakfast. Let her, I said, tossing crumbs to pigeons that scattered like my nerves. She started this. He lit a smoke, eyes scanning the joggers like threats. Did she? That tip was surgical. You left breadcrumbs back to your old firm. Cops are circling, Ruiz called me. Fishing. If they connect dots. They wouldn't. I'd been meticulous. Laundered the leak through 3 proxies. Timestamps fudged to point at an insider. But doubt gnawed. The same beast that had kept me silent a decade ago. What if this wasn't justice? What if it was just trading one cage for another? Elena's next move came swift. A serpent strike. My nonprofit's board called an emergency meeting that afternoon, via Zoom. Because budgets. Leah. We've got questions, said Carla, the executive director. Her face a mask of forced calm. Donors are pulling out.
Rumors about your past.
And now this Voss mess. Is there overlap? Overlap. Code for Are You the Leak? I assured them it was coincidence. Spun a yarn about healing family wounds publicly, but the seed was planted. By evening, my inbox overflowed, Hate mail from Elena's fan club, Traitor Bitch. Job feelers from True Crime Pods, tell your side for a fee. And a subpoena from Voss's attorneys demanding all communications Harlan Family Matters. I forwarded it to Mick. Escalate, I typed. Find the investigators she hired on me. Turn. Kroll Associates was a fortress of glass and NDAs in the Seagram building. But Mick had moles. His contact, a disgruntled ex-op named Tessa, flipped for a finder's fee and a byline in his next post. Her dossier landed encrypted, 200 pages of Elena's dirt-digging blueprint. Not just my parole violations fabricated, it turned out, with planted witnesses from my old cell block, but blueprints for character assassination. Doctored emails suggesting I'd skimmed nonprofit funds. Photos of me at AA meetings I'd gone for stress. Not the bottle. Even a psych eval from my trial twisted to paint me as unstable. But buried in the appendices?
Gold.
Kroll's prelim report on Voss, flagged but undelivered. Subject Voss exhibits pattern of financial obfuscation, it read. 2013 incident. Offloaded liability to sibling, Harlan.
L.
Current. Similar structuring via subsidiaries. Recommend deeper forensic audit. She'd hired them to bury me, and they'd unearthed her skeleton instead. Tessa's note. Boss sat on it. Said, pivot to Harlan. But files are intact. Your move. My move. I printed it all. The whir of the library copier a requiem for what was left of our sisterhood. That night, I drove to Jersey, rented beater. Cash only, to a storage unit Elena kept under Mom's maiden name. Mick had the code from a pilfered key fob. Inside, boxes of relics. Dad's old ledgers yellowed with age. Mom's jewelry in velvet cases. And a locked briefcase I jimmied with a paperclip and spite. It sprang open like a jack-in-the-box from hell. Inside, the original fraud docs. The ones she'd lost before my plea. Signatures forged in my hand. Good. But not flawless. A USB drive labeled contingency, brimming with backups of the Voss code. Timestamps matching my prison stint. And a letter. Unsealed. In her looping script. Dearest Leah, if you're reading this, things went south. I'm sorry. Use it wisely. Or burn it. Love always.
E. Sorry.
As if ink could launder blood money. I pocketed the drive. Torched the letter in the unit's sink with a Bic lighter. Watching flames dance like accusations. Wisely? I'd show her wise. Back in Brooklyn. The city pulsed with indifferent energy, honks from yellow cabs. Steam rising from manhole covers like ghosts. Schrödinger greeted me with a meow that sounded like judgment. I plugged in the drive. Let the files bloom on my screen. Algorithms that gamed the market. Insider trades masked as predictive modeling. Enough to indict not just Elena, but her board, her VCs, the whole rotten orchard. The polarizing part? It worked. Voss had lifted thousands out of poverty with those apps, micro-investments that turned baristas into stakeholders, single moms into savers. Expose it, and the house of cards collapsed on the vulnerable, not just the villains. CNBC ran a segment, Innovation or Illusion? The Human Cost of Voss's Fall. Interviews with users in tears, clutching phones like lifelines. She gave me hope, one said, a Latina nurse from the Bronx. Now what? I wavered. Therapy voice in my head. Boundaries.
Leah.
Not destruction, but the scar on my psyche. The one from 18 months of fluorescent hell and inmate shouts in the yard? It itched for salt. Elena's counterpunch landed Monday. Reporters swarmed my stoop. Mics thrust like spears. MS. Harlan, did you leak the story? Is this about revenge? I stonewalled. But inside, panic clawed. Then the email from Elena Voss at Proton Mail. Subject truce. Meet me. Neutral ground. The High Line. 8 p.m.
Come alone.
I know it was you. I went, hoodie up against the chill. The elevated parka ribbon of lights snaking through the meatpacking district's ghosts. She waited by the 10th Avenue overlook, silhouette sharp against the Hudson's black shimmer. A bottle of Veuve in one hand like a white flag. Leah, she said, voice raw. No air kiss this time. You win. It's over. I snatched the bottle, took a swig, bubbles sharp as regret. Over? You tried to ruin me. Again. She sagged against the rail, city lights haloing her defeat. I was scared. The IPO. The scrutiny. I thought if I discredited you first, the old story dies. But the investigators? They found it all. The code. The accounts. Kroll's turning state's evidence for immunity. Immunity. The word hung like smog. She'd flip on the board, skate on lesser charges, while I, the collateral, faced perjury raps for my confession. Why tell me? I asked, handing back the bottle. Because you're the only one who knows the truth. The whole truth. Her eyes, blue as Dad's, glistened. I didn't just frame you. I let you. Because I was weak.
And you.
You were always the fixer. Remember that summer in the Poconos? You covered for me when I crashed Dad's Porsche. Said it was joyriders. You chose me then. Flashback hit like vertigo, gravel crunching under tires. Elena's laughter turning to screams. My lie to the cops sealing our pact. Blood thicker than ink. But this was drowning in it. What do you want? I said finally. Forgiveness?
No.
A deal. I go down clean, community service, maybe a fine. You get the nonprofit a fat donation. Anonymous. And we bury the rest. Sisters again.
Sisters.
The word twisted like a knife. Part of me, the kid who'd shared secrets under quilts, yearned for it. The rest? A storm building. I need time, I lied. She nodded, kissed my forehead like absolution. Don't take too long. The wolves are circling. As she walked away, heels clicking into the night, I pulled out my phone. Mixed text, got Tessa's full Kroll dump. It's dynamite, board emails. The works. Leak now. Fingers hovered. One tap. And empires fell. Including mine. The decision came in fragments, a nightmare of cell bars. Elena's laugh echoing, morning coffee scalding my tongue, a donor call pulling funds until the dust settles. By noon, I drafted 2 paths, leak or let go, and burned them both in the sink. Schrödinger watching with yellow eyes. But revenge isn't a choice, it's a current. It pulls you under. That evening, I met Mick at the bar. Full court press, I told him. A nonce to ProPublica.
Tips to the AG.
No mercy. He raised his glass. To fall girls rising. As the whiskey burned, I wondered if this was triumph or tragedy. The line blurred, like the skyline at dusk. The second leak detonated like a dirty bomb, irradiating Voss Capital's remnants with fallout that lingered for weeks. ProPublica dropped the hammer first. The vast deception, how one woman's fraud preyed on the precariat, a 5,000-word gut punch with charts mapping the money trail from my prison intake photo to Elena's Gulfstream logs. The AG's office followed with indictments. Conspiracy, wire fraud, the works. Elena turned herself in at Foley Square. Perp walk flashing across every feed. Her head high but eyes hollow, mouthing no comment to the scrum. Wall Street wept crocodile tears, CNBC's boss verdict. End of an era? While TikTok erupted in duets, half hailing me as avenging angel, half torching me as jealous harpy. Blood money built on broken dreams, one viral vid captioned, splicing my TEDx clip with Elena's boardroom strut. My nonprofit? It hemorrhaged donors overnight. Carla's emails a barrage of indefinite leave ultimatums. I didn't fight it. Stability was a myth anyway. This was clarity. Mick went underground after the drop, paranoid about blowback. Watch your six. Leah, his last burner text read. She's got reach. He wasn't wrong. My locks got changed after a maintenance visit that left the apartment tossed, drawers yanked. Schrodinger's litter scattered like accusations. No theft. Just a message, we're still here. Elena's arraignment was theater. Federal court in Pearl Street, a circus of suits and stenos. I watched from the back row. Anonymous in a borrowed trench. Heart a war drum. She pleaded not guilty. Voice steady as she invoked a complex family dynamic in her statement. Her lawyer, a silver fox from Cravath, spun it as overzealous innovation in a flawed system, but the judge wasn't buying. Bail set at 10 mil. Passport yanked. As marshals led her out, our eyes locked, hers pleading, mine steel. Sisters?
Nah.
Survivors. Post-hearing, the twist uncoiled like smoke from a silenced gun. A courier showed at my door that afternoon, manila envelope. No return address. Contents spilling like confetti from hell. Inside, a flash drive labeled Leah's Truth and a note in Elena's hand. You wanted it all. Here. End this. I plugged it in. Breath shallow. Not more fraud files, no. This was personal Armageddon. Recordings? Timestamps from our teens, me. 16. Swiping dad's Amex for Elena's prom dress binge. Her whispering our secret, me. 22. Falsifying expense reports at the firm to hide her client gifts that were really Vegas markers, and the crown jewel, a video from the night of the crash. Dashcam footage I'd thought lost. Showing Elena behind the wheel. Wasted. Me in the passenger seat covering. Yelling, "It was me. It was me," to the responding officer. But the gut shot? An audio from my trial prep. Elena coaching me through the plea. Say it like you mean it.
Leah.
For us. I'll make it right, I promise. Followed by a wire transfer confirmation. $50K to my commissary account. Anonymous. Dated week 1 of lockup. Seed money, the memo read. Grow from here. She'd paid me off. Not in guilt, but calculus. A bribe to buy silence. The kind that festers into complicity. I'd taken it food trays. Phone minutes. The small dignities that kept the walls from closing in. And never questioned the source. Rage boiled. Hot as radiator steam in winter. This wasn't just betrayal, it was inception. Planting doubts, so deep I'd doubted my own innocence. I'd borne her crimes not once, but woven into my DNA, a tapestry of enabling I'd mistaken for love. I called Mick from a payphone in Tompkins Square. Voice a hiss. She's got more. Personal. I need to confront.
Don't, he growled.
It's a trap. Let the feds handle. But feds were slow. Procedural, depositions, and deals. This was blood. I drove to Rikers that night. Visitor pass greased by a hackmick ode. The bridge to the island a toll road to purgatory. Elena looked smaller and orange. Hair limp. The Botox sagging into real lines. We sat across smudged plexiglass. Her receiver trembling. You got it.
Yeah.
I pressed the phone to my ear. Close enough to fog the barrier.
Why? She swallowed.
Throat working. Insurance. For both of us. If it went south, you had proof to flip. I had. Faith you'd stay loyal.
Loyal.
The word cracked like ice underfoot. You turned me into your fall girl. Then your getaway car. Tears tracked her cheeks. Smearing cheap mascara. I know. God. Leah. I know. But look at you, out. Thriving. That nonprofit? It's what Mom would have wanted. I built Voss on your sacrifice. The code was ours. Remember? Late nights in Dad's office. You debugging while I dreamed.
Ours.
The lie stung sweetest. I'd been the gears. Her the glamour. And now, her empire ash. My life a footnote in the scandal sheets. What now? I asked, hating the plea in my tone. She leaned close, breath fogging our divide. Drop it. Testify for me, say coercion, that I manipulated you. Leniency for both. We walk, scarred but standing.
Or,
release the drive. Full exposure. I rot. You shine as the martyr. But the nonprofit dies, tainted by association.
and you?
Forever the sister who destroyed her own. The choice polarized. A Rorschach blot of right and wrong. Mercy meant complicity. Her sins diluted in family fog. Vengeance? Catharsis laced with Pyrrhic, jobs lost, dreams deferred. The public baying for heroes while we bled out slow. Hours passed in that booth. Words weaponized, her begging for the bond we'd forged in fire. Me railing at the theft of my agency. Outside. Rain lashed the windows. New York weeping for its fallen. I left without deciding. The drive burning in my pocket like a coal. Dawn found me on the Brooklyn Bridge. Wind whipping hair into Medusa's snarls. The city a sprawl of stubborn lights. Below, the East River churned, swallowing secrets. The end came quiet. No fanfare. I met Elena's lawyer at a neutral Starbucks in Midtown, irony thick as the lattes. MS. Harlan, he said, adjusting cufflinks that screamed old money. My client wishes to propose a resolution. I slid the drive across the table. Tell her this is it. He pocketed it. Expression neutral. And your testimony? Neutral. I invoke the fifth on the old stuff. Let the chips fall. Chips fell heavy. Trial dragged into summer. Headlines fading to filler. Elena copped to misdemeanor structuring. 2 years probation. $100K fine. Community service at a women's shelter. Voss dissolved. Assets liquidated to a victims fund that paid lip service to the little guys. My nonprofit? It pivoted. Rebranded as Second Chance Ledger, donors trickling back on the strength of my silence. We didn't speak after. No Hallmark thaw. No fraught holidays. But on release day, early, for good behavior, I found a package at my door, a key to a safety deposit box in Mom's name. Inside, Dad's ledgers, clean copies, and a check for 1.2 mil. Voss settlement scraps. Note, wisely.
E.
I cashed it. Seeded a scholarship for ex-cons in finance. Schrödinger got a scratching post. Life resumed, jagged but forward. Was it happy? Tragic? Ask the mirror. I see a woman who chose gray over black and white, who avenged without annihilation. Some call it weak, others, wisdom. Elena? She's in Seattle now, consulting under a new name. Whispers of a podcast deal. We orbit. Distant planets. Gravity a ghost. Revenge taught me, no one's all villain or victim. We're just humans, fumbling in the dark, lighting matches that burn us all. And in America's grind, where dreams are collateral and family the finest con, that's the real fraud.